Good morning, and now your news for Ayrshire. A 19-year-old man from Ayr has been found guilty of causing death by dangerous driving for his part in a fatal road crash on the A77 just over a year ago. The High Court in Glasgow heard how John Gribben's decision to engage in a high-speed race on the Ayr bypass directly led to the death of Joan Price after the man he challenged ploughed head-on into her car. Our reporter Bruce Mackenzie was in court.
It took the jury here less than 2 hours to convict John Gribben of death by dangerous driving. Throughout the week, the court had heard that it was the car of another man, Logan Knox, which had ploughed headfirst into that of Joan Price, a 59-year-old wife, mother and grandmother who was returning from band practice and died in the crash. But this trial had focused on the moments leading up to that, when John Gribben and Logan Knox had been engaged in a race on the A77. Logan Knox told the court that he'd reached speeds of up to 140 miles an hour. John Gribben was also found guilty of another case of dangerous driving, some 2 months after this fatal crash, whilst he was on bail. Logan Knox pled guilty last summer and is currently serving a jail term. And John Gribben was told today that these were serious and grave crimes, and he should also expect to go to jail when he returns here for sentencing later this month. Bruce Mackenzie, STV News at the High Court in Glasgow.
The lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender and intersex flag is now flying outside South Ayrshire Council for the first time. The local authority is flying it outside its headquarters for LGBT History Month and will continue to do so every February. Councillors say the gesture of support is important following a rise in suicides, an increase in hate crime and social media abuse towards the LGBT community. Domestic abuse is often thought of in terms of violence, but the impact of emotional or controlling abuse can be just as damaging. MSPs unanimously voted on legislation to prosecute partners who've caused psychological harm. The move has been welcomed by campaign groups, but lawyers have raised concerns about how these cases can be proved in court. Kay Nicholson reports.
I kind of describe it now as like a sort of death by a thousand cuts.
For Jennifer, the turmoil of an emotionally abusive relationship has had a lasting effect.
It was little things like being invited out and then being asked why I was there, or I'd be at my flatmate's house and the things had been stolen. You'd be out with friends, you'd say something and he'd wait until you got home and then you'd pull you up about it and actually be quite kind of like, no, you shouldn't say stuff like that about me in front of people. It wasn't till I kind of got out of it did I really reflect on just the amount of kind of psychological and emotional damage it was kind of like chipped away at me.
Now domestic abuse laws are being enhanced to clamp down on such damaging behaviour. Campaigners say this is a crucial step change in how domestic abuse cases are handled.
It reflects the fact that women experience emotional and psychological abuse in enormous numbers and have been telling us for 40 years that they and their children are harmed more by that than any physical violence.
Specialist domestic abuse courts like this one in Edinburgh Sheriff Court are now part and parcel of the Scottish justice system. They're seen as an effective way of fast-tracking cases and giving closure to victims. But some lawyers are concerned about cases focusing on psychological abuse and how they will work in practice.
Because it's going to be wholly subjective. This will be somebody coming along probably years later saying that at a time, some years previously, they felt in some way intimidated or psychologically abused. And that's very difficult for them to establish, and equally, in fairness to whoever is being accused of it, to defend that.
The Scottish Government has pledged to fund training programmes to help tackle these new cases.
It's absolutely essential we make sure that those who work with women in the domestic abuse setting, whether it be through Scottish Women's Aid or through Police Scotland, that we make sure they've got the right training and support that they require in understanding how the new legislation and the Act will actually operate. But it has the potential to fundamentally shift our whole approach to tackling domestic abuse.
The hope is this wider legislation will help stamp out an issue which is all too common in families across Scotland. Kay Nicholson, STV News.
And there's more on the STV News app. Bye for now.